In the first module, we talked about real love, what it is, how absolutely essential it is to our happiness, and how without it, we reach out to fill our emptiness with imitation love. In this module, we'll talk more about what else happens when we don't have enough real love in our lives. Now, at the break, somebody asked me an important question that I forgot to deal with. They said, so is praise, for example, always bad? Is it always a form of imitation love? No. All of the forms of imitation love, praise, power, pleasure, and safety, aren't necessarily bad. They're only bad when they're used as substitutes for real love. So that if you are filled with sufficient unconditional love and you praise somebody for what they're doing, it can be pure and clean. But when you aren't filled with enough real love and you praise somebody, you do it because you want something back. Now, how do you tell the difference? Easy. When you don't get back what you wanted, you feel disappointed or irritated. Look how many times you compliment somebody and they don't compliment you in return. Or they don't acknowledge your compliment, and then we're like, I said something nice to her. We do this all the time, don't we? You look at people in public and say, you look really nice, so do you. There's this immediate exchange, this trading of praise, in which case it is a form of imitation love. I was someplace once, and a lady said to me, gosh, you look like you've lost some weight. And I said, oh? And she said, waited for a few seconds. She said, well, say thank you. Clearly not an unconditional form of praise, right? Of course, the other thing that occurred to me was then, so before I looked like the back end of a rhino. Now, we tend to praise people looking for something. But when you feel sufficiently unconditionally loved, you can praise somebody with no agenda at all. And when you feel sufficiently loved and you get praise, you never take it as an indication of your worth. When somebody praises you and you feel loved, you don't ever go, well, thank you. You just take it as a piece of information. In the same way you would take criticism. It's just a piece of information. But when you don't feel loved, it becomes a completely different animal. When we don't have enough real love in our lives, we are absolutely dominated by two feelings: emptiness and fear. Emptiness because we don't have enough of the one thing that matters most in our lives, which is real love. And fear because when we don't feel loved, we're in pain. And when you're in pain, the thing you want more than anything else is to avoid more pain. And you're afraid of more pain, aren't you? Anybody here ever been sunburned from head to foot? If you're in a crowded room, are you nervous? Yeah. When you're in pain, you're afraid all the time. We're dominated by emptiness and fear when we don't have enough real love. And then what we do is we do whatever it takes to eliminate those two feelings. In order to eliminate our emptiness, we use what I call getting behaviors: lying, attacking, acting like victims, and clinging. When we're afraid, we protect ourselves with protecting behaviors: lying, attacking, acting like victims, and running. Let's start off by talking about the first one, which is lying. We have been actually trained to lie from the time we were little kids, taught to do it. Picture. I was 4 years old, and my brother was 6, and we were playing baseball in the living room. Now, for mothers who don't understand this, I'm going to solve this question for you for the rest of your life. Why do we play baseball in the living room? It's way funner. Because when you play baseball in the living room, there's an added element of danger. So my brother swings the bat, smashes my mother's favorite lamp all over the floor. We're not stupid. We run. We go into our bedroom and sit on the floor and read books with little oscillating halos over our heads. Several minutes later, my mother comes in the room and says, "Who broke my lamp?" Now, when you're 4 years old, how big's your mother? She's King Kong. And King Kong is mad. So I'm thinking, boy, I'm glad it wasn't me. I look over at my brother who, cool as a breeze, says, "I don't know." And I'm thinking, I'm puzzled. Were you not there when we broke the lamp? My mother, though, responded by saying, well, it had to be somebody, and she stomped out of the room without yelling at us or slapping us. And I'm thinking, that is way cool. What did I just learn to do? My mother taught me to lie. She didn't mean to, but see, in all the times that I told her the truth about my mistakes, not one time when I said to her, yes, Mother, it was I who put the hamster in the microwave. Not one time did she ever say, oh, you're such a truthful boy. And so I learned that if I lied, I tended to get in trouble less. But see, it's more than just about trouble. I learned that when I lied, I tended to prevent my mother from withdrawing her what? Her love. That's what lying is about. The only reason we ever lie is to keep other people from withdrawing their approval. Do you see that? That's why we do it. And yet look how often we as parents stand over a child and say, how could you lie to me? Don't we? If the child had any insight and the guts to say it, the child would respond, Mother, I only lied to you because when I tell you the truth, you're such a witch. That's why they lie to us, because we withdraw our love. We give them that when they make mistakes. And if it works for us when we're 4, we continue to do it when we're 44. Make sense? You bet. That's the reason we lie. Now that's lying to protect ourselves. We also lie to get. Anytime that I do anything to get you to like me, with what I say, with what I do, anything, I'm lying. Now that sounds kind of harsh, doesn't it? But think about it. When was the last time you said or did something so somebody would like you, and you said to them, by the way, I did that so you'd like me? No. That'd take all the fun out of it. So we're not telling the truth about why we do those things. So it is lying. We lie to protect and we lie to get. Now what's the problem with lying? Because there is an enormous problem with it. The thing that we want most is to feel unconditionally loved. To know that other people care about our happiness with no conditions. Wouldn't that be the coolest thing? Now, how can I know that you care about my happiness until I first know that you accept me for who I really am? You with me? Now, how can I know that you accept me for who I really am until I know that you see who I really am? Making sense still? And how can I know that you see who I really am unless I tell you? Unless I tell you the truth. So what's the problem with lying? The instant I lie, I make all the rest of that process impossible. The instant I lie, I can't feel seen, accepted, or loved by you. The instant I lie, I'm not really here anymore, am I? You just as well take a cardboard cutout of me and put it here. Because if I lie, and now let's say that you're extraordinary, and you love me unconditionally, I can't feel that. I can only feel it as a reward for my lie, for my manipulation. See? The instant we lie, we are alone and miserable and essentially dead. That's the problem with lying. Pretty big problem, you know? Attacking. I could punch you in the face, that would be an attack. But how else could I attack you without hitting you? Verbally, everybody's apparently pretty familiar with that. We can be pretty vicious in our verbal attacks, can't we? But do you know that the most common form of attacking and the most harmful form of attacking is one that we don't ever identify? I have done this presentation hundreds of times and asked the same question. What's the most common form of attacking? And unless you've cheated and read the book, nobody's ever answered that question correctly. The most common form of attacking is anger. By far. And we do it a lot. Because when I'm angry at you, remember we talked about this in the first module. What am I saying? You have dared to inconvenience me. You have done something to me or not done something for me. It's all about me. And while I'm saying me, is there any way you can feel my love for you? Not possible. In fact, I want you to memorize this. If you learned one thing in this entire seminar, it would be this. Every single time you're angry at another person, husband, wife, friend, child, parent, coworker, other driver on the road. Yeah, I know, it indicts a lot of us. Every single time you're angry at another person, that other person hears you say only 4 words. I don't love you. No kidding. If you have any doubt about that, you go home and blow up at the person of your choice and watch their face. Does this not now suddenly make sense out of every awful conversation you've ever had? It's always about real love. So when I come to you and I say, I am sick and tired of seeing your socks on the floor. See, you think I'm talking about socks, don't you? Fool. And then we get into those incredibly stupid conversations that go like this. I'm sick of seeing your socks on the floor. Yeah, and you don't balance a checkbook. Right? No, the subject is not socks. The subject is, I don't feel loved by you. And the other part of the message that I'm giving you is, I don't love you either. And that's what you hear. So when I come at you angry, the only message you hear is, I don't love you. Where do you think a conversation's going to go after I don't love you? Up? No, it's going to go straight into the toilet. So this explains every awful conversation we have. Think about how many conversations you've been involved in that have gone from apparently neutral to nuclear in 30 seconds, right? And then afterward we say to a friend or somebody, but all I said was, right? That's because all you said was, I don't love you. And when I say angry conveys I don't love you, I don't just mean angry like, and throwing things. Anger is everything from that to just, that's enough, isn't it? Did you get the message from what I just did? There's no love in that. Our conversation is over. Anger is an attack. It's an attack that conversations do not recover from. It never works. Now think about the effect of it. Not only is it wrong and unloving, and when I say wrong, I mean this. What's our entire purpose for being here in life? Isn't it to be happy? Isn't that like the end and goal of our existence? And we feel happy when we feel unconditionally loved and when we're loving other people, right? Anything then that contributes to feeling loved, loving, and happy would therefore be right, wouldn't it? Boy, that just really makes ethics and morals a breeze. Just as obviously, anything that detracts from feeling loved, loving, and happy would therefore be wrong. Wrong as in dumb, doesn't work, detracts from the whole reason we're here. And look at the proof of it. Prove it in our own lives. Think about the last time that you snapped at your spouse or growled at a child or bit somebody's head off. Did you feel closer to them? Warm and fuzzy? Like you'd made a little contribution to world peace? No. Every single time we get angry at other people, we're less happy, aren't we? They certainly hate it. We destroy our relationships, and yet we do it the next time. Now, we have a word for that in Georgia, continuing to do something that never, ever works. Stupid. So why do we do that? Why do we do stupid? Why do we do anger, which is stupid, every time? Because we do what we've seen. We do what we've learned. Do you remember when you were 4 years old sitting at the dining room table and you knocked the milk over in your glass? Did anybody eat at the dining room tables that had the leaf in the middle? Those were my favorite. Those of you that haven't, it's great, because the milk shoots across and then goes straight onto the floor. And as soon as you did that, what did the adult at the table do? That was immediate. And then they stood up, and all the way over to the sink, there was that sighing and that, how many times have I told you, all the way over. What we heard all the way over and back was, I don't love you, I don't love you, I don't love you. And we got it. You watch a little child as you do that to them, and they shrivel to the size of a pea. It's that devastating. But we do it because that's what was done to us. It's what we saw. When things get difficult, we don't tend to do what's right. We tend to do what we know. And so we do that with our own kids. Duh. Stupid, but it's what we do. And we tend to do it because we tend to get angry at other people because we have come to believe that other people make us angry, don't we? I mean, that's just an axiom in our society. You go to work or wherever and you say, boy, he made me so mad. And you know what people will say? What did he do? Won't they? Nobody will ever interrupt you and say, well, excuse me, he made you mad? Nobody will ever do that. No, we love to be victims together, you know? What if we could prove that other people never make us angry? Wouldn't that just change the world? Because if I know for a fact that you don't make me angry, and here I am being mad at you, how long could I keep that up? Wouldn't I look stupid after a little bit? So let's prove it. Let's prove that other people never make us angry. Let's say that you're down to your last $2. That's all you've got. And you're starving to death. And you're going to go out and buy a loaf of bread. Well, this would be exciting, wouldn't it? Big moment. So you're getting dressed to go out to the store and buy a loaf of bread. And you set your $2 on the table. And while you're getting dressed, I come running in the room, grab your $2, and run off before you could stop me. That'd be kind of annoying, wouldn't it? And almost certainly you would say that I made you mad, which seems to make sense, doesn't it? I mean, after all, you weren't mad. I came in the room and did something. Immediately, you became angry. Got to be my fault, right? No. It turns out that the real cause of your anger is an underlying, pre-existing condition that we're not identifying. Let's prove it. The next day, I come in the room again. Again, I take $2 off the table, run off before you can stop me. But this time, you have $20 million in the next room. Not so mad now, are you? In fact, now you might even say, well, gosh, you look desperate. Could I give you another $2? We just proved that I couldn't have made you mad the first day. Because if taking $2 makes you mad, you would have to have been equally mad both days. You weren't. The real reason you got mad the first day was because you didn't have $20 million. Whoa, didn't think of that. And this is a lot more than a cute metaphor. It works this way in real life. Every day, people do little rude, inconsiderate, selfish, thoughtless, snotty things, don't they? I mean, they say they'll be somewhere, they're not. They'll mail the check, they don't. They won't ever do that again, they do. People just do stuff. Every time they do something like that, it's like they're taking $2 from you. Follow? If that's your last $2, it's a big deal. But if you have 20 million emotional dollars, you just don't care. No kidding. Now, what's the 20 million emotional dollars? Duh, feeling unconditionally loved. If you have enough real love in your life, it's like you carry 20 million emotional dollars around with you everywhere you go. And this isn't a pipe dream, a fantasy. I've seen this work now in the lives of tens of thousands of people. It's unbelievable. I've seen it work in my own life. I used to be mad all the time. I woke up mad. I was mad all day. I went to bed mad. I dreamed mad. And you know that I've discovered that people do just as many thoughtless things around me now as they ever did. But now I hardly ever get irritated. Why? Because I'm stronger? Because I manage my anger better? Because I grit my teeth harder? How long does that last? No, because I feel loved. And if you want to come and take $2 from me, I'll give you another $2. It's easy because you have what really creates happiness. Instead of just managing your anger. That's like sticking a cork in a volcano. It doesn't work. And it really changes your life. Once you understand that, you can see that the choices in life really boil down to just two. You can choose what's behind door number one, which would be to always try to keep other people from taking $2 from you. Do you know that most of us live that way? You can't do that to me. It's not fair. Do you know what he did? We're always trying to stop people from doing stuff to us, aren't we? Oh, grow up. People are always going to do stuff. There's no wall thick enough or high enough to keep people out from doing stuff to you. So get over that. Don't try anymore. Or you can choose what's behind door number 2, which is to get the $20 million so that when people do take the $2 from you, you just don't care. Doesn't that sound more attractive? Especially if you learn that getting the $20 million really isn't very hard, and it isn't. It's a great way to live. And we're going to talk more about how to get the $20 million pretty shortly. Acting like a victim. Victims tend to say 3 things, or variations on 3 things. Look what you did to me. Look what you should have done for me. And it's not my fault. Recognize those? You can distill them all into a single sound. It's whining. And we all do it. How many times have you said, well, it's just not fair? Victim. After all I've done for you. Victim. You can't treat me like that. Victim. I couldn't help it. There wasn't time. Victimhood just goes on and on. Why do we do it? Because it works. If we're in a difficult conversation and I'm not liking how things are going and I try attacking you and that doesn't work, and lying and that doesn't work, and I just eventually go, I can very often get you to back off. If I can act enough like a victim, I can get enough sympathy to not be attacked. Or I can just get enough sympathy to feel worthwhile. It becomes a form of praise. And in our society, victimhood is virtually an institution, isn't it? Oh my goodness. It's that powerful. It really works. The problem is this. No matter how much sympathy I get from you by acting like a victim, look what happens. Every time I act like a victim, I'm pulling sympathy from you. See that? Mm-hmm. It can never feel like you're loving me unconditionally. I have to manipulate you for every bit of it. So no matter how much sympathy you get, you can never feel loved. You're like that person who's stalled at the chocolate truck in the middle of the desert. You'll die with all the sympathy in the world. It's never enough. Clinging. It's really obvious when a child is clinging, holding on to his mother's skirt, but how do we cling as adults? Well, you've all heard phrases like this, usually put to music. I can't live without you. Without you, I'll die. It's clinging. It's any attempt that we make to suck attention from somebody who wouldn't otherwise give it to us. And we cling in so many ways. One way that we do it is to say, I love you. Now, we can say I love you with no conditions, but most of the time we don't. I was watching a commercial one day. This was wonderful. I think it was about a trading stocks or some stock program. But there was a guy sitting across a dinner table from a lady at a restaurant, and she said, and it was, candlelit dinner. It was very romantic. And she said, I love you. And he looked at her for like 20, 30 seconds. She finally stood up and stormed off, and then when she was gone, he said, I love you too. And obviously the point of the commercial was it's about timing. It was real clear that her I love you wasn't unconditional, was it? She said I love you to him for one reason, so he'd say it back. And that's the most common reason that we do it, to get something in return. We can cling in lots of ways, little ways that we do almost every day. You get dressed and you say, how do I look? That's clinging. It's getting a compliment, do you see? We can do it with excessive gratitude. What if I say, oh, thank you so much for that sweet potato pie. Well, that was the very best pie I've ever had. I just can't thank you enough. Everything past thank you is clinging. And really means, I hope you bake me another pie. We do it a lot of ways. Do you have to go now? Do you have to play golf again this weekend? All clinging. And the problem is that then if somebody gives you what you're trying to get, it can't feel given unconditionally, you see? So it doesn't work. Running. If everything else fails in your difficult conversation and you've tried attacking and acting like a victim and lying and everything else, then you can always just, and in righteous indignation turn and march out of the room. And of course, then if you slam the door on the way out, you throw in a dash of acting like a victim and attacking too. You see, kind of a getting and protecting salad. No sense using one if you can use three, right? So you can run by leaving the room. You can actually run by staying in the room and just sulking. You've seen this. Is there anything wrong, dear? No. So there are lots of ways we can run. You can run by using alcohol and drugs. I wouldn't shoot up drugs every day because it was fun. I did it to escape the pain of not feeling loved. Lots of ways to run. Now, why do we tend to use one getting and protecting behavior over another? Because you've noticed that some people are more attackers and other people are more runners, right? We tend to use what we're taught and what's most effective. Now, every child, from the time they're born, virtually, learns attacking. Because as parents, when a child doesn't do what we want, almost reflexively, we do things like, and we lean over them. That's an attack. Attacking is anything that we do to motivate other people by using fear. And so you lean over a child to intimidate them, and that's an attack. So every child learns attacking. And eventually, after they've been attacked and motivated to change their behavior enough using attacking, eventually it occurs to them to use attacking themselves. This takes all the mystery out of the terrible twos. Think about what it's like to be one. Things are always being put off you, taken on you, shoved up you. It's a drag. Then suddenly you reach the age of about 2, and it's fairly uniform. At about age 2, this little child, the mother is putting the coat on this little kid, and some little neuron finally fires. And the kid goes, "No!" And this is the mother's first child. And the mother's like, "What happened to my little angel?" It's very disconcerting to a mother for their first child do that whole no business. And for a moment at least, the mother quits putting the coat on. And the kid's going, "Cool." You think the kid's not going to repeat that? Oh yeah, it goes from no to louder no, to "you can't make me do that," to throwing little fits on the floor, in the grocery store, to "I hate you, I wish you weren't my mother." The child simply learns that attacking is effective. It just works. And the child was taught to do that. See how much sense it makes? Now then, this 2-year-old who's learned attacking gets to be 4. And along comes his 2-year-old brother. Now the 4-year-old has been practicing attacking for 2 years. And they're fighting over a toy or whatever. And the 2-year-old reaches out and goes, "No." The 4-year-old's thinking, "That's all you got?" And either physically or emotionally crushes this kid. What does the 2-year-old learn? That didn't work very well. The 2-year-old learns that the attacking position in the family's been taken. The 2-year-old moves on to use running or acting like a victim or lying. Look at all the birth order books there are about how, the second and third born are more social. They're better liars. They learned that attacking was done. Out of the first 19 NASA astronauts, which were taken from the roles of fighter pilots, do you know how many of them were firstborn? All 19. Because they were looking for aggressive fighters. All firstborns. Do you see? They weren't looking for more social people. No. So that explains how children the firstborn tends to be a certain way, then the second a certain way, because of the way that we learn getting and protecting behaviors. And it's a fairly reliable pattern, but not the same in every family. Now again, with all these getting and protecting behaviors, it could all look really negative because we do this a lot. You recognizing these patterns of behavior? Oh my goodness. We don't do these like occasionally. We do these every day. But it's actually, again, the beginning of hope, because with understanding comes power. Power to do what? As you understand getting and protecting behaviors, you will understand almost all human behavior. No kidding. Because almost everybody around you is using them. I'm not exaggerating one bit. As couples come to me, I've discovered that people are often as hurt by not understanding their partner's behavior as they are by their partner's behavior. Because they come to me going, why does he do that? Right? Or why does she act like that? It makes us crazy. Because when we don't understand why somebody behaves in a certain way, we're absolutely baffled as to how to respond differently, aren't we? It just makes us nuts. Well, for the rest of your life, you can never say, why does somebody do something? I'm not kidding. When people behave badly, you can write this down in stone. It's because they don't feel enough unconditional love in their lives, because they're empty and afraid, and they're using getting and protecting behaviors. It's that simple. I've done this presentation in front of rooms full of PhD psychologists, and afterward had them come up and say, why did I go to school? This makes much, much more sense. It's much simpler. It's much more effective. I had a psychiatrist write to me, and he said, I've been in psychiatry practice for 35 years. And after reading the book, Real Love, and after participating in a loving group with other people and practicing the principles, I'm pretty sure that in those 35 years, I never did any lasting good. You believe that? 35 years of psychiatric practice? Because I never understood what people needed, which was to be loved. I never understood why they behaved the way they did. Now you do. 35 years of psychiatric education right here. Isn't that cool? It really is why people behave this way. Second, you can now understand the interactions that you have with other people. Consider the arguments that you've had with people in the past. And now suddenly they make all the sense in the world, don't they? You come at somebody and you're mad at them, but you're trying brilliantly to explain why you're angry. And then you don't understand why he reacts like such a horse's butt, right? It's because the minute you open your mouth irritated, you're saying, I don't love you. Now, ironically, along with I don't love you, there's an underlying message, which is, I need to be loved. We're saying both things, because you wouldn't be behaving that way if you felt loved, you see? But the person that you're saying that to doesn't hear, I need to be loved. They hear the, I don't love you. So instead of giving you the hug which you really need, they come right back at you with one of their getting and protecting behaviors. And this is how relationships end up in the sewer, because we're not understanding what's going on in those interactions. Third, as you understand getting and protecting behaviors, you can understand why you often don't feel loved unconditionally. So, the instant I behave like a victim, I'm doing that for whose benefit? Mine. I'm trying to get from you sympathy or whatever. The instant I attack you, I'm doing that for whose benefit? Mine. The instant I lie to you, the instant I use any getting and protecting behavior, I'm trying to manipulate you to get some form of imitation love. Then when you give me what I think I want, what do I have? Nothing. I have imitation love. Here I am spending my entire life, my whole life's breath, to get what will never make me happy. As soon as we use getting and protecting behaviors, we can never feel loved. We can only get imitation love. So it's a real dilemma, isn't it? The irony is we use them so that we won't feel unloved. And the instant we use them, we can't feel loved. Dang, that's a real problem, isn't it? Fourth, another benefit of understanding getting and protecting behaviors. If we don't understand them, we are absolutely doomed to repeat them. Does that make sense? What you can't see, you will repeat. Several of my children took piano lessons. A couple of them even enjoyed it. And one of my sons was in the other room playing a piece, and he kept hitting the wrong note. And so from the other room I would say, flat, it's flat. And he kept hitting the wrong note. So I finally went into the other room less than patiently and was going to show you how to play the right note in that place. It turns out that, and this is a pretty rare event, the note had been misprinted on that particular copy of the piece. He was going to play that wrong note forever. And so I erased it, which took a little and put in the right note, and he played it right from then on. If we don't see what we're doing unproductively, we will keep doing it. There's no way we can help but. So it's enormously beneficial to see what we're doing, which is one of the things that we're going to be doing today, is to help you see some of the getting and protecting behaviors that you use, not so we can say, oh, see, you're attacking. No. So that when you see that you're attacking, from that moment on, you can now make a choice not to. Do you see that? But all of our lives, when somebody has pointed out a mistake we're making, it's been done with that tone, hasn't it? You're acting like a victim. You're lying. She even flinched. I mean, it's just absolutely reflexive. When somebody comes at us to tell us a mistake we make, it's like, no. We want to see these mistakes so that we don't have to keep making them. Fifth, when we understand getting and protecting behaviors, it completely changes the way we see people, the way we feel about them, and the way we respond to them. And let me tell you, that will change your entire life from this moment on. Let's say that you and I are having lunch in the Bahamas, which would be lovely. Let's go. And we're having your favorite meal by the side of a pool. There's a live band in the distance playing your favorite music. The breeze is perfect. The temperature's great. Humidity. It's a flawless day. Couldn't be better. In the middle of this perfect day, you notice that there's a guy in the pool next to you who's splashing your shoes. First a little and then a lot. And then your ankles and then your leg and your pants or dress or whatever you're wearing. This is not part of your perfect day. You're assuming that after a short period of time, this buffoon will quit it. But he doesn't. He keeps splashing you. Finally, you've had it. You stand up, give this idiot a piece of your mind, and as you stand up to say something to this fool who keeps splashing you, you see that the man in the pool is drowning. The only reason he was splashing you was to keep his head above water. Now, is there anybody here who's still mad at the man in the pool? If so, there's nothing we can do to help you. You can leave. How long did it take you to lose your anger at the man in the pool? Like that, wasn't it? A single moment of clear vision of seeing what he was doing, and you lost your anger. Just like that. Did you have to work at it? Did you have to go, okay, I'm not going to be mad at you? Did you have to do that? No. Your anger just went, didn't it? Oh, but it gets better than that. After you see that the man is drowning, what's your next move? You'd help him out, wouldn't you? Now, would you walk up to him and say, $20, I'll help you out of the pool? No? You might, huh? Wrong. Later on, you and I one-on-one. Would you say to him, apologize for getting my shoes wet and I'll help you out of the pool? Nah. You'd help him out of the pool with no conditions, wouldn't you? Do you recognize that phrase? In one moment of understanding, you just went from angry to not angry to unconditionally caring about his happiness, which is the definition of real love. Is that cool? Now, would it be neat if you could do that in real life? Oh, yeah, it would. And you can. Let's prove that. I want you to picture somebody in your life who's irritating. Just one. She's down here going, oh, well. Get a Rolodex out and picture one irritating person and picture the irritating things they do. Easy? Now, when they do those irritating things, what are they doing? Are not every one of the irritating things that other people do, are they not getting and protecting behaviors? All of them. There are no exceptions. All the things that other people do that we don't like are lying, attacking, acting like victims, running and clinging. Those are the things we hate. And people only use those behaviors because they're empty and afraid, because they don't have enough real love, which is just as important to their emotional health as air is to a drowning person. In short, every person who behaves badly in your life is just drowning. And they're using getting and protecting behaviors to keep their head above water. It has nothing to do with you. Nobody drowns to you. Doesn't even make sense, does it? No. They're only trying to keep their own head up where they can breathe. And then what do? When they splash us, we take it personally, don't we? Oh, yes. And then we come up to them and say, stop it. Now, can you imagine a lifeguard doing this at a pool? Excuse me, sir, but you're really disturbing the guests. So if you wouldn't mind, if you could just put your hands at your side and slip under the water and drown, you're bugging us. And yet that's what we say to our partners. No kidding. After counseling with thousands of people now, I can tell you that almost every single time somebody comes in to see me, one or both of them will say some variation on this. How do I get my husband, wife, father, mother, how do I get somebody to quit blank? Make sense? How do I get that other person to quit whatever it is they do that I hate? And my answer is, so you'd like your partner to drown more neatly. Why don't you just tell them to go home and drown and quit bothering you? Your partner is doing everything he or she can to keep their own head above water. It has nothing to do with you. And we take it personally only because we are drowning too. And what we do is we come up and we say, stuff it. And if that doesn't work, then we smack them upside the head and say, what did I tell you? And if that doesn't work, we're never satisfied with being medium stupid. We like to go all the way. We jump in the water with them. Now what have you got? Two drowning people. And they're both splashing each other and both saying, quit it. I told you to quit it first. And then when they get close enough to each other, they wrap their hands around the other person's throat and scream, save me. You have any doubt now why relationships go badly? It's not because of what one person or the other does. It's because both people are in the water drowning, because they haven't had enough real love in their lives. And there was no way they could survive even on their own, much less save a partner. And yet then we turn to our partner and say, save me, or at least quit bothering me. Impossible. And how could you possibly stay angry at a drowning person? Doesn't it just change everything when you see people as drowning? Can you see the unbelievable power of this understanding? When you get it, when you really get it, that people who are behaving badly are just drowning, you really do lose your anger. Who would be angry at a drowning man? You've already proven here today that you wouldn't. In fact, let's do this. Just for fun, picture how somebody behaves when they're drowning. I mean, my gosh, they're thrashing and kicking and screaming. It's kind of insane looking, isn't it? Now, we got a video of them doing all that, and we're going to edit out the water. How do they look? Nuts, don't they? I'm here to tell you that anytime you wonder why somebody in your life is behaving badly, to borrow a phrase from the side of a soup can, just add water. And you'll see why they're behaving badly. They're just drowning. And it's pretty hard to stay mad at somebody when you see them as drowning. In fact, when you then get enough real love in your own life, you'll reach out in compassion and attempt to help them. So it eliminates anger to understand other people's behavior, and it also eliminates guilt. If you behave badly only because you're drowning, why would I behave badly? Wouldn't it be for the same reason? Sure. That's why people behave bad, not because they're inherently evil, because they don't feel loved. That really makes a huge difference to us as parents in not feeling guilty. Anybody here have children? Anybody here been a child? Then you know all about parenting. You're going to hate this. If you have children who are angry, withdrawn, rebellious, smoking, drinking, having sex, doing all those things that we find annoying, it's your fault. All those things that children do that are troublesome are getting and protecting behaviors, aren't they? Which they use because they don't feel enough unconditional love from the mailman? No, from us. It's our fault. Well, so what? The only reason that we don't give our children enough real love is because we don't have it ourselves. Clear? Because we're drowning too. Drowning people are incapable of unconditionally loving other people. Nobody who's drowning is thinking, I wonder how the kids in Rhodesia are doing. Nobody. We become completely self-absorbed. And when we're already drowning and a child does something to inconvenience us, we will lash out and either control them or punish them or be angry at them or whatever, and in the process tell them, I don't love you. But we don't need to feel guilty about that because we are loving them as well as we can, even if it's lousy. All we need to do now is learn how to love them better. Wallowing in the guilt, ridiculous. If you want to have a little bit of guilt to motivate you to change, go for it. But wallowing in guilt after that just keeps you right where you are. Is this fun or what? You just realized that if your children are using getting and protecting behaviors, it's your fault. But there's no reason to feel bad about it. You did the best you could. Now it's all about learning how to love them. And then they'll have no reason to use those behaviors. Pretty great, huh? So now notice that in what we just did, we completely changed the way that you see, feel, and respond to everything. Isn't that amazing? In just a short period of time, we can completely see the world in a different way. That's amazing. Because without getting and protecting behaviors, what would be left? What would you have? You'd be happy, wouldn't you? All the time. Oh, gee, that'd be a shame. It's an incredible way to live. I'm not quite there, but a lot further than I was years ago. I love being happy, whereas using getting and protecting behaviors really stinks. Makes me miserable and certainly made everybody around me miserable. So that's what we're looking for, is to be happy. And we have to learn to eliminate those getting and protecting behaviors. But characteristically, our lives run like this. When a thing happens, we just respond like a knee-jerk. Somebody does something, we just get mad. Somebody does something, you made me mad, as though somehow we were a rock or a stick, reacting involuntarily. And it keeps us angry. The minute that you say, you make me angry, you're in a position where you can't be happy. Do you see that? What if you say to me, you make me so mad? Oh, I've got you, don't I? Now, anytime I want, I can irritate you. I own you. Do you see that? If I make you mad, I own you. That's kind of a lousy way to live, don't you think? It's a terrible way to live. We need to rise way above that, and we can. It's much happier to be able to eliminate those getting and protecting behaviors instead of being controlled by other people. So let's look at our lives in a new way. Not just a new, clever way, but a true way. A way that's consistent with eternal principles, so that we can see the link between events and how we react. And I call it event, judgment, feeling, reaction. An event is just something that happens. It rains. You get a flat tire. Somebody accuses you of something you didn't do. Somebody's unkind. Somebody's hateful. Somebody's angry. Those are just events. It's just stuff. And stuff happens to all of us, right? The rain falls on everybody. That's an event. But the event doesn't control anybody. we first have to make a judgment about the event before we react. Let me illustrate. Let's say that you're sitting at a table and I set in front of you a big red box. It's gorgeous. It's wrapped beautifully with a gorgeous gold bow, and there's a great big gold S on the box. And I set that in front of you. You're tickled. This looks really cool. You open it up, and to your surprise, the biggest spider you've ever seen in your life jumps out, fastens onto your arm, sinks its fangs into your flesh, and sucks your blood. How would you react? Probably run and scream or pass out, huh? You would certainly react violently and with fear, huh? Shake it off, whatever it is you do. The next day I come back. Again, you're sitting at the table because you're a little slow. And again, I set in front of you a big red box with a gold bow and a big gold S on the box. And I set it in front of you. How would you react? You'd probably run and leave the room, wouldn't you? Now, you would be afraid and you would react by running out of the room because of what? Would it be because of the box? You don't know what's in the box. You understand? It couldn't be the box. Would it be because of me? No, because you don't know what's going to happen. You're reacting to your judgment that what's in the box will hurt you. Make sense? Now, your judgment comes from what? Past experience. The best predictor of the future is the past, on the whole. You're reacting to your judgment. Now, let's look at that event, judgment, feeling, reaction. What if I simply say to you, when I put the box in front of you on the second day, don't be afraid. Will that work? Probably not. And yet we try to control our feelings all the time. What if I say to you, now, don't back away. That's not going to work either. You will back away all the faster.
Absolutely.
But what if I took my knife out and cut the bow and opened up the box and you saw that instead of a spider, it was a box of Swiss chocolates? Now would you run? No. What just changed? Your judgment. Do you see? We can't simply control our feelings. We can't simply control our reaction. Look how many times you've been in church or wherever and you've heard, we should be more loving. You ever heard that? I've heard that many times, and I go, I'm going to be more loving. Yes, I am. And I go home and I'm more loving for 6 minutes until somebody crosses me. We can't simply alone control our reaction and our feelings. But it made a powerful difference when I changed your judgment, didn't it? In fact, it changed everything when I did that. Our goal should be to change our judgment, and it will change everything else. We've spent our whole lives trying to control our feelings and trying to control our behavior, haven't we? We've made New Year's resolutions, for example, that will control our tempers. But what a joke. We fail, and then we feel worse. It's because our judgments haven't changed. And now we can learn to change those. What a relief. Now, the judgment that we make is pretty specific. The judgments that determine how we react are judgments about what? Color schemes? How it's going to affect the living room furniture? No. How it's going to affect the habitat of the horned lizard in Somalia? No, we make judgments about how a thing will affect me. That's the judgment that determines how we respond, right? So that's the judgment that we need to address how a thing will affect us. And we can change that in a number of ways. Let's illustrate. A lady came to see me named Diane. And her husband had said something really unkind to her. And she said to me, he makes me so mad. Natural to conclude, but not true. We already showed how that's not true. Other people don't cause our feelings or our reactions. She was absolutely stuck in her reaction. How can we help her? What if I'd said to her, it's not nice for you to be mad? I think she already knew that, don't you? Yeah. That isn't going to work. We've got to, or we could try to change her. First, she wanted to change the event. The event was the first thing she wanted to do, which was to control her husband's behavior, right? That's the thing we first tried to do, to get him to quit doing that. Good luck. You can't control other people predictably. And even if you did, you wouldn't like the result. Really. If I can control you sufficiently, you become an extension of me, like my shoe, or a stick, or a stone. And if I can control, for example, I'm with my shoes all day long, but I don't have a loving relationship with my shoe. Precisely, he was hoping that I didn't. Precisely because I control my shoe. My shoe doesn't make independent choices. My shoe is not separate from me. When I'm with my shoe, I'm still alone. Do you see that? The instant I control you, I'm actually still alone, because now you're just a part of me. So we actually don't want to control events or people. So that wouldn't work with Diane, would it? So we could try to control her feeling. I could have said to Diane, just don't be afraid. Just don't be afraid when your husband, gets mad at you. Because what's her real fear? What's she afraid of when he gets mad? Afraid that he doesn't love her. I could just say, well, just don't be afraid. Ridiculous. That's not going to work. If I come at you, chasing you around the room with a raised knife, what good will it do for me to say, oh, just be at peace? It makes as much sense to tell somebody like her to not be afraid. Or I could tell her to change her reaction. Just don't be angry at your husband. Ridiculous. She's already made the judgment that she's going to be hurt. She's already afraid, and she will react. Now, she learned to be angry early on. She was a firstborn. So she reacted by attacking. She might have been a secondborn and reacted by acting like a victim. It doesn't really matter in the end which protecting behavior you use, because they all kill you. But you can't simply control the reaction. But we can change the judgment, and that changes everything else, as we discovered with the two boxes labeled S, one containing a spider and the other Swiss chocolates. The first step in changing our judgments is simply to recognize them and understand where they come from. Now, where did Diane's remember the judgment about the spider or the box came from past experience. Where did Diane get the judgment that her husband's unkind comments would hurt her? Where did she get it? From past experience. Because consistently in her entire life, when people had been angry at her, when people had criticized her, she had felt unloved and alone. She had seen that pattern over and over again. And her husband simply confirmed it. All of her life she'd seen that when she made mistakes, people withdrew their approval. And he simply added to that. He was the straw that broke the camel's back. Do you get that? She already came to the relationship wounded and bleeding. He simply added the straw each time that broke her. So she already had the judgment from a lifetime of experience that she wouldn't be loved if she made a mistake and if somebody was mad at her. And frankly, her judgment was right. But she was making two judgments. One, that she wasn't being loved by him, which is accurate. In the moment that he was mad at her, was he loving her? No. So she's right about that. It's a huge mistake to tell somebody in a circumstance like that, well, but he loves you. Actually, he's not loving her. It makes people crazy to lie to them, try to make them feel better. Telling a lie for a potentially is not a good thing. Oh, it's okay. No, it's not. But the other part of her judgment was this: I will never be loved. That's the real thing that she's reacting to. And we can change her judgment by changing that she'll never be loved. How are we going to do that? The first step in changing a judgment is to recognize the judgment. I'm afraid of not being loved. That's the real judgment that's involved every time we become afraid and react badly. Not, it's his fault and he's unkind. See that? So when somebody says, oh, I'm so mad because of he, no. The judgment is, I'm not so mad because of he, I'm so mad because I am empty and afraid. And I have made the judgment that I'll never feel loved. See the difference? Boy, does that change the complexion of the conversation, huh? It's critical that we understand then that every time we lie or get angry or act like victims or cling to people or run, it's a reaction to our own emptiness and fear, our own lack of real love, which has usually been present for a very long time, not a reaction to the behavior of another person in that moment. Second step in changing judgments is to realize that we always have a choice about our judgments, about our feelings, about our reactions. We're not rocks and sticks. Now, in our defense, if we have felt unloved for a lifetime and used getting and protecting behaviors our entire lives, we may not see a choice other than what we're making. You see that? If I've only been empty and afraid and used getting and protecting behaviors my entire life, being loving is a choice, but I can't see it. And so as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't exist. Next, third step is learning to see others clearly. Do you remember what happened to you in the story of the drowning man? The instant you saw that he was drowning, didn't your judgment of him change? Like that. So what did I do with Diane? I helped her see that in addition to her husband saying, I don't love you, he was also saying, I'm completely incapable of loving you because I'm drowning. Then she saw that it didn't have anything to do with her. And it changed her judgment that it was about her not being lovable. That makes a huge difference. To see somebody else that they're drowning and that it's not about you. In our defense, it's really difficult to see that about somebody else if we are drowning ourselves. If you're drowning and somebody else is drowning, you don't really care. Because if they're splashing you, that's the only thing that you care about. But if we have $20 million, if we're filled up, we can't be hurt. So as Diane's judgment changed, so did her feelings and reaction. As her judgment changed that her husband was simply drowning instead of intentionally trying to hurt her, and as she saw that it was possible to be loved, at least in that instance, in that moment, by me, and as she saw that it was possible to be loved by other people and that she wouldn't be unloved for her entire life, she no longer had a reason to be afraid. Do you see that? And then no longer had a reason to react with anger. And she then discovered a bonus. As she learned to tell the truth about herself, which we're going to get to more in the next module, as she learned to feel more loved and as she became more loving and was able to love her husband instead of reacting badly to him, she was able to give her husband what he needed, which was to feel loved. And as she gave him the love that he needed, guess what happened to his behavior? Remember, he was only treating her the way he was because he was drowning. And as she reached out to him and loved him instead of responding with anger to him, his drowning behavior disappeared. Isn't that incredible? So it turns event, judgment, feeling, reaction into a circle. We changed her judgment, which changed the way she felt, which changed the way she reacted, and then here's the cool thing. As she changed the way she reacted to him, it completely changed the event. It changed the way he behaved toward her. But you have to be careful. She didn't do all this so that his behavior would change. That would then become a manipulation. You with me? No. She did all this just to learn to love him. But as you do that, you will discover that the people around you will become less afraid. They will respond with less getting and protecting behaviors because they finally feel loved. Love melts monsters. I have lost track of how many people in counseling have come to me and explained what a terrible spouse they have. And as I've tried to explain these principles to them, they've said, well, you just don't understand my husband, wife, parent, whoever it is. And my response is, no, you don't understand your husband, wife, or whoever it is. Because as long as we're empty and afraid, we can't see anybody clearly. Make sense? As we become more loved and loving, we can see everybody better. Our judgment changes, our feelings change, our reactions change, and the whole world around us does. Now, not everybody responds quickly to real love. In fact, in some relationships, some people are so wounded that some people will even rebuff unconditional love and won't respond to it. But we, as we become unconditionally loving, will always be happier ourselves. The end result of becoming more loved and loving ourselves is that we always get to be happy, whether other people respond with love or not. Isn't that cool? That takes our happiness completely out of other people's hands. That's a pretty powerful thing. Now, I don't own you anymore, and you don't own me. And we're going to talk a lot more in subsequent modules about how to get to that sufficient supply of real love, because that's just huge. We started using these getting and protecting behaviors because as children we didn't feel loved. We were wounded, we were abused by not feeling loved, not by the specific things that were done to us. How many times have you talked to people and they've told you, gee, I'm a survivor of incest, I've been abused, I was yelled at, I was hit, and their whole identity in life becomes tied to how they were hurt? No. All of those wounds boil down to not feeling loved. I talked to a lady who had been sexually abused by everybody she knew. Stepfather, brother, his friends, it just went on and on. She'd been in therapy for 20 years and was still a miserable human being, isolated. I talked to her for 3 minutes and said, wow, nobody's ever loved you. She looked at me like I'd not been paying attention. She wanted to go over the abuse again. I said, nah, those are the details of how you weren't loved. That's all. And we could focus on what was done to you and nothing will change. Or you can get healed. We can make a little memorial to the details of how you were hurt, write poems to it, and have little benefit dinners, and you'll still be wounded. Or you can get loved and change your life. And she learned to go through the process that we're going to be talking about here shortly. She learned to go through the process of getting unconditionally loved herself, and her whole life changed in a matter of months, not 20 years. It's all about getting loved. Now, when we understand these getting and protecting behaviors, how would that change the way we react to people? Imagine, let's do this at work. Your boss comes in. Anybody here ever had a boss that gets things done by attacking? Who hasn't? The boss comes in and says, who did this? What do we tend to do? Them. What are we doing? Lying. And then if that doesn't work, we go, oh, I couldn't help it, there wasn't time. Well, now what are we doing? Acting like a victim. And then if he keeps attacking, usually we don't do it to his face, but we attack him behind his back, don't we? Oh yeah, sure we do. We have so many clever ways of attacking people. You know how when somebody comes in and you're mad at them, but you want to appear to be civil? And they come in and they say, oh, hi, and we're very good at this. Hello, they say, and you go, hi. You know that little pause? I call it the up yours pause. Because it's our way of letting them know, I'm just mad as can be at you, but hi. We have so many ways of attacking people. And then we tend to avoid him, don't we? Which is running. Now here's the problem. When he comes in attacking, remember there's two messages. One is, I don't love you, which is the one we hear. And the other one is, I need to be loved. We hear the I don't love you and don't respond to the I need to be loved. Here's the problem. He's saying, please love me. And with every one of the getting and protecting behaviors, what are we saying? No. Well, when we refuse to love him, he now feels more empty and afraid and is now more likely to attack us the next time. Do you see that? We cause the behaviors we hate. Every time we use getting and protecting behaviors, we make them worse. So what would you do? I had a boss who was just like that. He had a PhD in attacking. He would step out of his office and the building would empty. They were terrified of him. He came into my office, I was relatively new, and he started in. And I let him go on for, 30 seconds or so. And I leaned toward him slightly and I said, so Bill, we'll call him Bill because that was his name. I said, so Bill, what can I do to help? He looked stunned. All of his life when he had attacked people, they'd responded with other getting and protecting behaviors. What was I doing in that moment? Now this sounds crazy. Loving at work. See, when we say love, we picture this. Oh, see, you probably wouldn't do that with your boss at work. Loving, you remember, what is loving a drowning person? Reaching your hand out. That's all. I saw him as drowning. All I did was reach my hand out. What can I do to help? That's love. He was stunned. In fact, he said, I'll get back to you. I helped him with that problem and another one, and I treated him like that every time I saw him. For the 3 years I worked there, he followed me around like a puppy. He loved being loved. It works everywhere you go. People love that feeling of you unconditionally accepting them. Love melts monsters. Now, what about at home? Guys, when your wife comes home and she's had a really bad day, can you tell? Usually from about a block away. I mean, the tires squeal different. You know, she pulls in the driveway, she opens the door, you can hear the ozone burning in the next room. There's a crackling to it, you know? And when we hear that, what do you think we do, ladies? We run. We're not stupid. The problem is, the instant we run, what do you hear? I don't love you. And then it's disaster, isn't it? What if you did it differently? What if instead of running, understanding that when your wife is using getting and protecting behaviors, that sure, she's saying, I don't love you in that moment, but she's also saying, I need to feel loved. So you go find her at the sink, at the computer, wherever. And instead of running from her, you just touch her. Repeatedly. And with every touch, what do you think she hears? This ain't rocket science, guys. Every woman in the room is going, I love you. You just keep touching her. Now, it's true, every once in a while she'll be having a really bad day. And you'll get what I call the alligator shoulder. And she'll snap your hand off at the wrist. When that happens, we're real tempted to feel justified in going, well, I tried, right? No. Love only counts when you're being a butt. No kidding. If I love you when you're being nice to me, so. But if I love you when you're being difficult, oh, that'll sink right into the marrow of your bones. No kidding. So what do you do when she shrugs you off? You just go right back to touching her. 9 times out of 10, she'll then either tell you what was bothering her, or whatever was bothering her won't matter anymore. I've done that with my wife many times. You look like something was bothering you. I can't remember what it was. Because the only reason we're bothered by little stuff is that we ran out of the $20 million, right? It was our last 2. And when you come and you give him or her or whoever some of the $20 million back, it doesn't matter anymore. So you keep touching her. Now, what if she shrugs you off the second time? This isn't world wrestling. You're not going to make her. So you walk away. But in 5 minutes, you come back. That's the ultimate evidence of love, is returning when somebody's not especially easy to love. Really. That's when you really demonstrate what you think of somebody when they're being the most difficult. So to summarize this module, first, when we don't have enough real love, we're empty and afraid. Second, in order to eliminate those intolerably painful feelings, we use getting and protecting behaviors: lying, attacking, acting like victims, clinging, and running. These behaviors, third, briefly give us various forms of imitation love and make us feel safer, but they eliminate any possibility of genuine happiness and they cripple relationships. As we understand real love and getting and protecting behaviors, we can dramatically change the way we see people, the way we feel about them, and the way we react to them. And that pretty much changes the whole world. Event, judgment, feeling, reaction. As we change our judgments, we change our feelings and behavior, and in the process, we find the genuine happiness that we're really here to get. And sixth, we change our judgments as we recognize them, as we realize that we always have a choice, as we learn to see other people clearly, and as we get loved ourselves. I have shared the principles of real love with people all over the world, and I'm impressed with the absolutely consistent, positive results experienced by those who diligently apply these principles. People are simply amazed at the genuine, lasting differences they're seeing in their lives, often quite noticeable in a matter of days or weeks. Singles are completely changing the way they see love, falling in love, and dating. Finally, they're finding the kind of partners they've always wanted, and they're learning what it takes to build those relationships in a healthy and lasting way. Married couples are learning how to overcome the wounds and obstacles that have been bleeding the joy out of their relationships. They're learning how to really love one another, and in the process, they're creating a level of happiness they'd never imagined possible. Parents are discovering that raising children who feel loved and who are loving and responsible is so much easier and fruitful than everything else they've tried. Parenting doesn't have to be the stressful and confusing experience that it is for so many of us. We've all experienced so much frustration, irritation, and pain in our lives that we've come to accept it as normal. It does not have to be that way. The bottom line is this: people are eliminating the fear, frustration, and anger from their lives, and instead they're finding peace and real power as they feel unconditionally loved and as they share that real love with others. These people are not unique. You too can learn to find the genuine happiness they have found. As you learn the principles of real love, it's very likely that you'll have many questions. You'll wonder, exactly what does this principle mean? How would I apply that to my husband or my child or on a date? I have seen the results of real love in so many lives and with such consistency that I don't hesitate to make you a promise. If you will dedicate yourself to the pursuit and sharing of real love, you will be rewarded in ways you can scarcely imagine at this point. I know this sounds like a grand claim, but real love has a greater power to change our lives than anything else. By far, it simply works. What would you pay for a sense of absolute peace? For the power to feel happy and undisturbed in the face of any conflict or difficult situation? For the feeling that you are loved without condition and the ability to share that feeling with those around you? Frankly, we already pay with everything we have, with our very lives, for much less than the positive feelings and qualities I just described. We trade everything we have for conditional approval, for power, and for other things that are pale, shallow imitations of love. Essentially, we give up everything in return for nothing. The price for finding real love is much less than what we're paying now. We only have to learn a few real love principles, and then we will change the way we see and feel about everything. I have counseled with a great number of people from all over the world, and I've seen individuals, couples, and parents spend countless thousands of dollars on individual counseling, group therapy, marriage counseling, and professional help for their children. Singles spend vast sums on internet dating and on the dating process itself. And by way of contrast, I've received thousands of communications now from people who have said that exposure to real love has made all that counseling and professional help completely unnecessary for them. Real love has revolutionized their lives in dating, marriage, parenting, business, and every other aspect of life. I personally know of no more powerful way to begin the journey toward real love than to subscribe to Real Love, and it won't cost thousands of dollars. The monthly cost of subscription is less than the cost of a dinner for two, less than the cost of half an hour of therapy, less than $1 a day. As a physician, I have stood at the bedsides of many people who were close to death, and I can tell you that at the end of our lives, we don't care how much money we have. We don't care how many people we control or how big our house is or how many people we've persuaded to praise us or respect us. What matters to us is how loved we feel and how well we have loved those around us. Don't wait till the end of your life to figure out these pivotal priorities. Decide now that you'll do whatever it takes to find and share real love. As you do that, you'll find the happiness you've always wanted as an individual, and you'll be able to participate with far more power and pleasure in all your relationships: dating, marriage, parenting, other family associations, friendships, and in the workplace.
I'd say do it now. You just can't do this stuff soon enough, and the more you practice, there's sometimes a fear because it brings up all of these issues, but when you do it and you make a commitment and you take action, it will transform your life. Are you willing to be happy, and are you willing to do the steps necessary to get you there? Sign up today.
Do it. Stop everything you're doing right now and do it.
Don't hesitate. Jump in. It's just remarkable, and I think so many times we hear from people, you should try this, it'll change your life. And this is, you hear that and then you try something for a couple of weeks and you think, oh, forget about that, and you move on. This is totally different. And this has been 2 years that I've been working on these principles with my marriage, with my kids, in my friendships and relationships, and it's amazing how it can change your life and how you can just become a whole lot more peaceful and happy walking through your days.
Oh, I would encourage it, absolutely. I'm very excited about it. In fact, I can't help but tell people about it. It has changed my life so much that I would encourage everybody to jump in head first and do as much of it as they can, because the results are phenomenal.
If someone were considering learning more about real love, I would think that it would be the greatest gift that they could give to themselves and to everyone that's in their life. Not only will they enrich their happiness, the happiness of everyone else will increase tremendously. It's one of the best things that they could ever do.
I'd recommend it for anybody, no matter what stage. I mean, whether you're a young person, a middle-aged, or an older person like I am. There's always ways that you can learn more and not shut yourself up and be open to new things. It's really great.
Do it, hurry. Go and seek it out, because I look at the age that I am, and I certainly wish that I had known of it sooner and could have practiced more of it. I think it would have saved me a lot of heartache and possibly saved my marriage.
Drop everything you're doing and get involved. Talk to a friend, read the book, call someone that's read the book, get to a seminar, and get involved. It's that important.
Never be satisfied with just getting along in life. Don't just survive, as most people do. Don't be satisfied with any more superficial or unproductive relationships. Instead, take this opportunity to subscribe to Real Love and find the unconditional love and fulfilling relationships you've always wanted. You'll be grateful for the rest of your life that you took this step. Remember, it's always about real love.